Good morning. It's me, Mindy, again. Hoping my head is not cut off this time, which it was last video, but here we are. I think I have it adjusted a little better. I'm going to keep doing this probably the whole time. This morning, I have a quick recipe here for you, and I'm going to start in while I'm talking because I've got kind of a temperature sensitive thing here, but I'll explain in a minute, so give me 1 second here. Okay, I'm going to pour this over and then I'll explain what I'm doing. I am making, it's kind of like a Christmas toffee. It's not hard, but you just have to be kind of careful because heating and boiling and all that stuff. So while I pour, I'm going to try to explain what I'm doing here. I started by lining a pan with graham crackers. The graham crackers are going to be my base. And I am now pouring over butter and brown sugar that I have boiled together on the stove. And I had to stir it the whole time, which is only like 3 minutes, but that was the reason I went ahead and did this right before I started the video, because you don't want it to scald. So I am pour this over. I'm going to stick this in the oven and then we'll go over the recipe together. This just has to be in the oven for about 4 or 5, probably like 5 minutes. And then we'll go from there. So give me 1 second. Okay, now I can do the real video. So this is a Christmas toffee recipe. You've probably had it before, maybe even made it before. I'm going to give you a couple variations of the recipe that you can do just to kind of mix it up a little bit. So you might notice I put a 9x13 pan in the oven. I'm baking a half recipe of this right now just to show you, but the recipe I am giving will be the full recipe, and you would use a cookie, like an 11 by, I think this is 12 by 17, cookie sheet, or as recipes will sometimes refer to it as a jelly roll pan. So the reason I'm baking a half recipe is that we already have so many sweets and things left over from Thanksgiving. We don't need all of it. As a matter of fact, I'm probably going to freeze part of this. And then secondly, because I was transferring in and out of the oven while I was doing this video, I wanted to use a pan that was deeper because you have to be careful taking it out. The liquid that is baking gets so hot that you just have to be extra careful, and I did not trust myself to make a video, not slosh and scald boiling whatever on my hands. So those are the 2 reasons that I am halving the recipe to show you, but the recipe I will give you and the instructions I'm giving are for the full recipe. I hope that all makes sense. So for the full recipe, you would take, again, an 11, or I think it's 12, I keep saying 11, 12 by 17 pan. It's just your standard kind of cookie sheet. You would line it with foil and then spray with nonstick spray. Now, once you do that, I'm using graham crackers for the base. You could also use saltine crackers. I have heard of people using Ritz crackers, which I'm sure is good with kind of that buttery texture. I don't know if you could use, I guess you could use club crackers. I've never tried it that way before. But anyway, whatever cracker or pretzel you choose to use, you're going to lay it flat on the foil lined sprayed cookie sheet / jelly roll pan. Once you do that, you can go ahead and preheat your oven. I'm doing 375 again, 350 if your oven runs a little hotter. While your oven is preheating, you're going to take 2 sticks of butter, which is 1 cup, and put that on the stove top in a saucepan like I just did. I melt the butter first. Once the butter is melted and slightly kind of sizzly, but not too sizzly, but just kind of, melty and a little bit boily, I add 1 cup of brown sugar. And then that mixture you will stir and it will come to a boil, and you'll want it to kind of be boiling for about 3 minutes, but you need to stir it constantly so it doesn't scald and stick to the pan. Once you've done that, You're going to go ahead and take and pour that over the top of your cracker or pretzel base. You may need to use the back of a spoon. I just used the same whisk I was using just to kind of spread it out a little bit. As it bakes, it's going to fill in, so don't get too concerned if there's a little bit of, some spots that aren't covered. And then once you bake that for about 5 minutes, it's going to be super hot, bubbly around the edges. So you're going to want to be very careful, especially if you're using a more shallow pan. Excuse me. Still early, I haven't had all my coffee yet. This is a step that, unless you have kids that are much, much older, you, the adults, should probably handle the taking in and out of the oven of that. And then once you set it down, I should have had hold on a second. Preaching like how hot it's going to be, and I forget to take out hot pads. So anyway, when this comes out of the oven, I'll put this on the hot pads, and then you will pour, and again, I'm halving the recipe, but you will pour a bag of chocolate chips over the top. You'll sprinkle it over the top. It'll just sit for a minute or two, and the chocolate immediately melts, and then you spread that around to cover the entire top of what you just did. And then you can put on sprinkles. I'm going to do a little bit of sea salt and some Heath bits, and then gold sprinkles just for fun on half of it. And then the other half, I think I'm just going to do these little Christmas sprinkles to make it look kind of festive. So that is my plan. And I thought I'd show you the step from the chocolate chips melting and all of that. I think the timer just went off. Hold on one second. It is fairly bubbly. Yeah, it is. Probably could have done maybe another minute or two, but we're just going to, for time and video's sake, so spread that around a little bit. It'll usually be really liquidy and, like I said, kind of real bubbly. I would show it to you, but there's not going to be a whole lot to see. It's just kind of the chocolate melting. So I'm going to let that sit just for a minute. If you want to, you can even stick this back in the oven for maybe a minute or two, but again, you have to be careful because of the heat of everything. And you don't want anything to scald or burn. Burnt chocolate's kind of gross. So as I'm waiting for this to kind of melt, once I get everything sprinkled on all the toppings that I want, I will let this sit out for a few minutes, and then when it cools just a bit, I'll probably stick it in the fridge to continue to chill. I think it takes about an hour. You can freeze this. What you will do once it's all kind of chilled and firmed, you will just break it into pieces. There's no cutting. You literally break it into pieces. It's very easy because you don't have to cut anything or worry about measuring anything as far as the lines or anything. So I will break it into bits. I'll then probably just put it into an airtight container. And like I said, we'll maybe leave a little bit out and maybe put some in the freezer. The one thing about freezing anything with a chocolate layer or glaze is that sometimes the temperature will slightly discolor the chocolate. It doesn't affect the taste, but it might be a little bit lighter as opposed to the deep chocolate. So that's just a temperature thing. It's up to you if that bothers you, then don't stick it in the freezer. But if it doesn't affect you one way or the other, you can easily freeze this and then pull some out when you're ready to use it, or put it on a platter in a container to give to somebody. All right, so I'm going to try to, this chocolate is ready. It just takes a minute or two because it's so hot. And then at the end, we'll see if I can show you kind of how it looks with the different different things going on here. The graham crackers are sliding a little bit, but it's all right. Everything melts and gets kind of melded together at the end anyway. And that's what I love about this. It's just, it's not super precise. You're not trying to cut beautiful squares by any means. You're just breaking it off into little candy pieces. Some people, a lot of recipes will call this Christmas crack because it's so addictive. I don't really like that name though. And it does taste like toffee with all the melted butter and the brown sugar, all the good stuff, so good. Okay, so I have this just about spread out. You'll want to definitely use the foil because it can be kind of messy and sticky and it just makes for easier cleanup. Okay, so I'm going to do about half of this pan with about a teaspoon of the coarse sea salt. You just need a little bit because sea salt's kind of, it's really good, but it goes a long way. So this is going to give it kind of that little bit of salty sweet. Because like I said, I'm using graham crackers. When you use the saltines or a club cracker or even a pretzel, you get that little bit of salt. I personally prefer the graham cracker. I don't know if it's because I like sweet the most, or I don't know, it's just it just feels sturdier too. So now I'm sprinkling on, add some Heath bits, just Heath baking bits in the cabinet. So I'm going to go ahead and just sprinkle a little bit of that on. It'll be really good with the sea salt combo. And then I have, I don't know if you can see these, they're just the gold jimmies, and they just kind of go with, kind of coordinates with the Heath bits, and it just makes it a little more festive. So I'm gonna throw on some of those sprinkles. All covered up there. Okay. So I just kind of made a dividing line of my own. I didn't really, just kind of guesstimating. All right, now I'm just doing little Christmas sprinkles just to make it festive. And then if you give this away or make a little tin, you can kind of put some pieces of each in, and you've got the colored sprinkles, which is going to be, that side of the top will be pretty sweet. And then the other side's got some gold sprinkles, and then it's got some sea salt. Do a combination within the container of both, and it just would be really pretty. So, one second here. Put the lids on these because I have had sprinkle catastrophes before, and it's just a big mess. Okay, let me get my pot holders. I'm going to try to hold this up. Hopefully you can hopefully you can see that. All right, so like I said, I will let this sit out just for a few minutes, just so the pan can cool just a little bit. And then I will put that in the fridge and let that finish firming up, and then have a little afternoon football snack, or I don't know, we'll figure out something. So anyway, I hope this was a little bit helpful. Day 2, I made it to day 2 with only one day missing in between. So I hope to see you guys again soon, and have a good rest of your Sunday. Bye.